The courtroom doors opened at 9:14. Anna Reeves heard them from the defendant's table. The heavy double doors, the sound of footsteps entering, the specific shift in air pressure that happened when a room changed. She did not turn around immediately. She was staring at the table in front of her, at the thin manila folder her public defender had been reviewing for 40 minutes this morning in the courthouse hallway, 40 minutes that was supposed to represent her entire case, the sum total of everything standing between her and losing her daughter. Her public defender was 26 years old and kind and completely overwhelmed. Anna knew this the way you knew things you couldn't afford to say out loud. Across the aisle, Derek Mercer sat with his three-man legal team, Anderson, Walsh and Park, in matching dark suits, briefcases open, a quiet, confident arrangement that said, "We have done this before and we will do it again." Derek himself sat with his hands folded on the table. He looked calm. He looked the way a man looked when he had already decided the outcome and was simply waiting for the room to catch up. He had that quality, always had, of being already finished with things other people were still in the middle of. Anna hated that quality more than anything else about him. She looked at the empty judge's bench. She thought about Lily. 6 years old. Dark hair, Anna's nose, Derek's stubbornness expressed in the most wonderful possible way. Lily was at Mrs. Caruso's apartment right now, Anna's 74-year-old neighbor across the hall, who had been feeding Lily breakfast on court mornings for the past 3 months because Anna needed to be here at 8 and Lily's school started at 8:30. She thought about Lily saying goodbye this morning. "You're coming back, right, Mama?" "I'm always coming back," Anna had said. He had meant it. He was less certain of it now. Then the footsteps reached the front of the gallery. Her public defender, whose name was Claire Chin, a woman who was doing her absolute best with what she had, looked up from the manila folder. Her expression changed. Something moved across Claire's face that Anna couldn't read. Surprise and then a rapid, professional reassessment. "Ms. Reeves," Claire said quietly. "Don't react. Just listen." Anna turned. A man sat down in the gallery bench directly behind her. He was perhaps 50, compact, with dark hair going silver at the temples and the specific controlled stillness of someone who occupied space with complete intention. He was dressed in a dark suit that was not showy but was definitively not cheap. Behind him, 2 other men sat, and beside those men, 3 other people that Anna did not recognize but who carried themselves with the posture of people who had somewhere to be and a reason to be there. Anna had never spoken to this man in her life. She had seen him in the way you saw neighbors, coming and going from the building across the street, sometimes with the older woman next door who brought him soup. She had registered him as someone significant without knowing why. You just knew on that street who the significant people were. She stared at him. He leaned forward. "Mrs. Caruso asked me to come," he said. Quiet. Completely steady. "You're not alone today." Anna's breath caught. She turned back to the front. Her hands were flat on the table. He pressed them down hard to stop the shaking. Across the aisle, Derek's lead attorney, Anderson, leaned in and said something to Derek. Derek turned. His eyes moved across the gallery. They found the man behind Anna. They stopped. Something crossed Derek's face. It was the first time in 3 months of legal proceedings that Anna had seen Derek's composure change. His jaw tightened. His eyes went back to the front. He said something quietly to Anderson. Anderson began typing on his laptop with a new speed. But then, and this was the moment that changed everything, Claire touched Anna's arm. Anna looked down. Claire had a folder in her hands that had not been there 60 seconds ago. Thick, tabbed, professionally organized in a way that the manila folder never had been. A man was still standing beside Claire's chair, having just delivered it. Claire opened the folder. She read the first page. Then the second. Her posture changed completely. The particular posture of a 26-year-old public defender who just realized she was no longer outgunned. She looked up. She looked at the man behind Anna. She gave a very small nod. The man nodded back. Then the judge entered. The bailiff called the room to order. Anna gripped the edge of the table. She did not know yet what was in the folder. She did not know yet who the 3 people sitting beside the man from across the street were, or what they knew about Derek Mercer that Derek had spent 2 years making sure stayed buried. She just knew that for the first time since she had walked into this courthouse 3 months ago feeling completely alone, she was not alone anymore. But the day was not over. And Derek Mercer still had one move left that nobody had anticipated. The judge was the Honorable Patricia Reese, 61 years old. Silver hair pulled back with the no-nonsense precision of a woman who had been in family court for 22 years and had developed a very clear sense of what mattered and what was performance. She looked at both tables. Her eyes rested on the new additions to the gallery for 2 seconds. Then she opened the case file. Anna sat straight. She had worn her navy blazer, the one she'd bought 3 years ago for a job interview, the one that still fit properly because she hadn't been eating well enough to change size. She had put it on this morning and looked in the mirror and thought, this is what fighting looks like when you have nothing. She thought about Lily. Lily at 6 years old was a person with full and complete opinions about everything. About which cup her juice went in. About the specific way her sandwich was cut. Diagonal, always diagonal, anything else was a philosophical error. About stories at bedtime which had to include at least one animal, at least one adventure, and end with everyone safe. Everyone safe. Lily always required that ending. Anna had started needing it too. The case, as Derek's legal team would present it, went like this. Anna Reeves was financially unstable, having lost her marketing coordinator position 8 months ago following the company's restructuring. She was behind 2 months on her rent. She had applied for 7 jobs without success. She had, on one documented occasion, been unable to pay Lily's school lunch balance, and Lily had received an alternate lunch. One documented $18 school lunch balance. Derek's team had put it in the filing like it was a crime. Anna looked at Derek's profile. He was everything she had believed he was once. Successful. Steady. The kind of man who arrived on time and opened doors and said the right things at the right moments with the practiced warmth of someone who had studied what warmth looked like. She had married the performance. She had not understood until 3 years into the marriage that the performance was all there was. The man behind the warm arrival and the open doors and the right words was a calculator. Everything, every gesture, every dinner, every vacation, every gift, was an investment with an expected return. When the return did not come, the investment was withdrawn. When Anna had asked 2 years ago whether they could talk about what was going wrong between them, Derek had looked at her with those steady eyes and said, "Nothing is wrong. You're catastrophizing." She had started to believe him. That was the part that still made her chest tight. She had started to believe that her own perception of her marriage was unreliable. The room settled. Derek's attorney Anderson stood. He presented the custody petition with the specific polished efficiency of a man who had built cases against mothers for 15 years. His language was careful. Never cruel, never explicitly dismissive. Just precise. Just the particular legal architecture of turning a woman's difficult year into evidence of permanent unfitness. Financial instability, he said. Documented housing precarity. A pattern of decisions that demonstrate. Objection. Claire stood. Anderson paused. The judge looked at Claire. A young public defender standing in family court, objecting to the opening statement of Anderson, Walsh and Park. The judge's expression was neutral, but there was something in it. A slight attention, a recalibration. Sustained or overruled? The judge said. "I apologize, Your Honor," Claire said. "I should clarify. I have documentation I'd like to introduce as supplementary evidence." With the court's permission. Anderson turned. His eyes went to the folder in Claire's hands. His expression flickered. "These materials were not submitted in the pretrial discovery period," Anderson said. "We object to any late." "The materials were assembled within the past 18 hours, Claire said, in response to information that became available to the defense. "I would request the court's indulgence to review them before ruling on admissibility." The judge looked at the folder. She looked at Marco in the gallery. She looked at Anna. "I'll review the materials during recess," the judge said. "We'll proceed with opening presentations and return to this matter." Anderson sat down. He leaned into Derek. His voice was low, but Anna was close enough to catch the edge of it. "Do you know what's in that folder?" Derek looked at the folder in Claire's hands. His jaw worked once. "No," he said. But his eyes said something different. His eyes said, "I have a guess." And if the guess was right, the entire architecture of his case had just developed a crack. But even Anna didn't know yet the full shape of what was in that folder. Or who the 3 people in the gallery were. Or what they had been waiting 14 months to say. She was about to find out all 3 things at once. The recess happened at 10:20. 22 minutes. Judge Reeves took the folder to her chambers and the courtroom emptied into the hallway in the specific shuffling way of a building in pause. Anna stood at the window at the end of the corridor. Outside, the city went about its morning. A bus. A delivery truck. Pigeons on the courthouse steps doing whatever pigeons did between acts. She heard footsteps behind her. She turned. Marco Vitelli stood a few feet away. He did not approach aggressively. He stopped at a respectful distance. The distance of someone who understood that a woman in a difficult position deserved to choose the space between them. "How long have you known Mrs. Caruso?" he said. She looked at him. 3 years, she said. "Since I moved into the building." He nodded. "She talks about you," he said. "You and Lily. She says Lily brings her drawings on Tuesdays." He paused. "She showed me one. A house with a large sun. The sun had a face." Something tightened in Anna's chest. "She draws a lot of suns," Anna said. "With faces. Mrs. Caruso has it on her refrigerator." Anna looked at the window. "She called you last night," Anna said. "Yes. She told you about the hearing." "She told me more than that," he said. "She told me enough that I made some calls." "To who?" He looked at her. "Do you know a man named Greg Whitfield?" he said. Anna blinked. "Derek's former business partner," she said. "They fell out. About 2 years ago. I don't know the details. Derek never told me what happened." "I know what happened," Marco said. "And so does a federal financial investigator named Sandra Lim, who has been building a case for the past 14 months. Anna stared at him. "Building a case on what?" she said. Marco looked at the courtroom door. "Derek Mercer has been moving money," he said. "Through a series of shell companies. Small enough amounts per transaction to stay under reporting thresholds. Large enough in aggregate to constitute fraud." He paused. "Greg Whitfield discovered it 2 years ago. He confronted Derek. Derek dissolved the partnership and sued him for breach of contract. A suit he knew Greg couldn't fight because fighting it would have required Greg to reveal what he knew and expose himself to collateral liability." Anna's mouth was slightly open. "Greg has been waiting for someone to come to him with the right approach," Marco said. "Someone who could offer him legal protection in exchange for his testimony." He paused. "He is sitting in the gallery with Sandra Lim and one more person whose testimony is considerably more specific than either of theirs." "Who?" Anna said. Marco looked at her. "Derek's assistant," he said. "A woman named Joelle Park. She has been with him for 3 years. She has documented in her own handwriting in a notebook she has kept locked in her car for 14 months, every instruction Derek gave her that she understood to be problematic." Anna's back touched the window. "She documented it," Anna said. "She was waiting," Marco said. "She needed protection from retaliation. She needed someone who could ensure Derek could not come after her employment, her references, her professional standing." He looked at her calmly. "Those assurances have been made." Anna looked at the courtroom door. She thought about Derek at the table, the careful fold of his hands, the way he had looked at the folder with that flickering expression. He had a guess. He had guessed Joelle. Because Derek had known, somewhere in the back of his careful, calculating mind, that Joelle saw everything. He was too good at her job not to. "Why?" Anna said. "Why did you do this? You don't know me." Marco looked at the window. He was quiet for a moment. "I know what it looks like," he said finally, "when the system is stacked against someone who deserves better. I've seen it enough times." He paused. "And Mrs. Caruso called me. When Mrs. Caruso calls, I come." Anna looked at him. "That's the whole reason," she said. He met her eyes. "A 6-year-old girl draws suns with faces and puts them on her neighbor's refrigerator," he said. "A mother goes to a courtroom alone to fight for her because she has nothing else to use." He paused. "That is sufficient reason." Anna looked at the floor. She pressed her lips together. She was not going to cry in the courthouse hallway. He was not going to cry. "There's something else you should know," Marco said. His voice shifted. Slightly lower. "Joelle's testimony includes financial documentation from your marriage. Specifically, a transfer of assets that Derek made 18 months ago, before filing the custody petition, that significantly reduced his visible net worth on paper." Anna looked up. "He hid money," she said. "From the divorce settlement," Marco said. considerably more than what was disclosed. The air in the hallway changed. Anna straightened. She had known. Somewhere in the part of herself she had been trained to distrust. She had known the settlement had been wrong. She had signed it because the alternative was prolonged litigation she couldn't afford, and Derek's attorneys had made very clear what prolonged litigation would look like. She had signed it. And he had walked away with considerably more than he had any right to. "How much more?" she said. Marco looked at her. He told her the number. Her hand went to the wall. Her fingers slipped against the plaster. Then she steadied. She stood up straight. She looked at the courtroom door. She thought about Lily's drawing on Mrs. Caruso's refrigerator. The house with the large sun. The sun with the face that Anna knew meant warmth and safety and someone watching over things. She thought about what Derek had done. Not just to her. To Lily's future. To the resources that should have been there for Lily. The recess ended. The bailiff appeared at the door. Anna walked back in. She was not the same woman who had walked out 22 minutes earlier. The marriage had looked right from the outside. That was what Anna had learned to understand in the years since. That certain arrangements were engineered to look right from the outside as a primary function, and that the inside was simply whatever was required to maintain the exterior. She had met Derek at 24. He was 31, a financial consultant with a glass-walled office and an ease with people that she had mistaken for openness. He had been interested in everything she said. He had listened. Actually listened or appeared to, which she would later understand was a specific skill he applied deliberately and withdrew on schedule. They had married at 26. The first year had been good. Not perfect. No first year was perfect, but good in the real way. Meals cooked together. A weekend trip to Vermont where it rained the whole time and they had stayed in bed and laughed about it. A fight about something minor that resolved in an hour. The ordinary warmth of two people choosing each other. Then Lily was born. And something shifted in Derek that Anna couldn't name at the time. He was not an absent father, not in the visible sense. He showed up. He was present at the important events. He carried Lily when she needed carrying and read to her when she needed reading to. From the outside still good. But something in his eyes when he looked at Anna had changed. Like the ledger had been recalculated. Like her value in the arrangement had been reassessed in light of new information. She had been an asset. Educated, presentable, good at the things his life required of a wife. A baby had changed the equation. She was less available. Less focused on the maintenance of the exterior. More focused on the small, unglamorous, invisible work of keeping a child alive and healthy and happy. Derek did not value invisible work. He valued visible returns. The criticism began small. The house was not managed correctly. Her spending was imprecise. She was distracted, unfocused, not the person she used to be. She had heard these sentences so many times that they had begun to sound like facts. She had tried harder. Then harder still. Then so hard that she had lost the thread of who she was before she walked into the glass-walled office at 24. The divorce came when Lily was 4. It was not dramatic. Nothing with Derek was ever dramatic. Drama was inefficient and visible, and he preferred mechanisms to performances. He had simply indicated, one evening with the specificity of a man reading terms from a contract, that the marriage was no longer producing the outcomes he had expected. He had used the word outcomes. She had looked at him across the kitchen table and thought, he has been calculating this for a year. She had been right. He had been preparing for 14 months. The settlement had been handled by his attorneys and her single overworked mediator. And she had signed it because she had run out of energy and money simultaneously, and because he had made it clear through channels that contesting it would be long and brutal and she should think carefully about what that meant for Lily's stability. She had thought carefully. She had signed. She had walked out with less than she should have had and the knowledge that she had allowed it because she had been too depleted to fight. In the courthouse hallway during recess, Anna had learned the actual number. She had pressed her hand against the wall and steadied herself. She had not done the math yet. She would do it later. Right now she was in the courtroom listening to Derek's attorney present the custody case, and she was looking at the organized folder in Claire's hands, and she was thinking about Joelle Park in the gallery with 14 months of handwritten notes locked in her car. 14 months. Joelle had been watching, recording, waiting for someone to come with the right offer. Anna thought about that. She thought about what it meant. That Derek's own assistant had been building a case against him in her own handwriting for over a year. That the person closest to his daily operations had decided, somewhere around month 4 of working for him, that what she was watching required documentation. That was not someone who had been surprised by what they saw. That was someone who had recognized a pattern immediately and responded to it with systematic care. Anna understood that instinct completely. She had done the same thing in her way. She had kept texts, emails, a journal, not every day, not organized, but entries that recorded specific incidents with dates because she had known, with the same quiet certainty Joel had known, that someday the record would matter. She had given those entries to Claire this morning in the hallway. Claire had added them to the folder. They were Exhibit D. Derek's attorney was finishing his opening statement when Anna looked at Derek directly for the first time all morning. He was not looking at her. He was looking at the gallery. At Joel Park. Joel was 53 years old, with gray-streaked hair and the patient expression of someone who had made peace with a decision and was simply waiting for the moment to execute it. She sat with her hands folded in her lap and a leather portfolio on her knee. She had not looked at Derek. She was looking at the judge. Derek's eyes moved from Joel to the folder in Claire's hands. His jaw set. He leaned to Anderson. Whatever he said, Anderson's response was brief and did not appear to reassure him. Anna looked at her daughter's name in the case header, Lily Elaine Mercer, and thought, not today. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. She thought about the son with the face on Mrs. Caruso's refrigerator. She thought about Lily's voice this morning. You're coming back, right, Mama? She had promised. She was going to keep that promise. And the man in the gallery behind her had given her the means to do it. But Derek still had a move left. And it was the worst move he had ever made. Derek made his move at 11:43. The morning had not gone well for his team. Claire had presented the supplementary materials with a composure that surprised everyone, including herself. Sandra Lim's financial analysis had been admitted after a 40-minute sidebar. Greg Whitfield's testimony was scheduled for the afternoon. Joel's testimony for after that. The folder had changed the room. Judge Reeves was reading differently, asking sharper questions. The casual lean she'd had in Derek's direction, the lean of a judge who had read a clear-cut case in the pre-hearing documents, was gone. She was sitting forward. He was in the material. Derek watched this happen in real time. Anna could see it on his face. The specific microcalculations of a man whose plan was not proceeding as designed. Then Anderson called for a brief recess on medical grounds. My client, Anderson said, has information relevant to this proceeding that has only just come to his attention. I would request 15 minutes to consult with him. The judge raised an eyebrow. She granted 10. The gallery shuffled. Anna stayed at the table. Marco did not leave the gallery. He sat with his hands on his knees and watched the courtroom the way he watched everything, with the specific attention of someone who knew that things happened in the margins. Anna's phone buzzed in her pocket. He looked at it. Unknown number. She answered. Ms. Reeves. A man's voice. Smooth. Professional. Not aggressive. The carefully neutral tone of a lawyer operating in a gray space. I represent an entity associated with Mr. Mercer's business interests. I'd like to discuss an arrangement before the afternoon session. Anna's hand tightened on the phone. I'm in a courthouse, she said. I know, the voice said. That's why the timing matters. The morning session has introduced certain materials. Mr. Mercer is prepared to make a substantially revised offer on the custody arrangement and on the financial settlement. Full custody to you. No contest. In exchange for the financial investigation materials being withdrawn from today's proceedings. Anna stared at the table in front of her. He wants me to withdraw the evidence, she said. He's offering full custody, the voice said. Isn't that what you want? She looked at the door of the courtroom. She thought about Lily. Lily was the answer, obviously. Lily was always the answer, and full custody was what she had walked in here praying for. But what the voice was asking her to withdraw was not just evidence in a custody hearing. What was in Sandra Lim's analysis and Joel's notebook was evidence in a financial fraud case that had nothing to do with custody. Derek was not trying to protect himself from losing custody. He already knew he was going to lose custody. He was trying to stop the financial investigation before it went further. Before it went federal. Her breath went out slowly. She stood up. She walked to where Marco was sitting in the gallery. She handed him the phone. He listened for 4 seconds. He said 2 words, wrong number. He handed the phone back. He looked at Anna. Is Lily the only thing you want out of today? He said. She looked at him. No, she said. I want the money he took. For her. That money was for her future. Marco nodded once. He pulled out his own phone. He texted something. Anna went back to the table. Claire looked at her. Someone just called me, Anna said quietly, offering full custody in exchange for withdrawing the financial materials. Claire's eyes went wide. He's trying to stop the federal investigation, Anna said. Not the custody case. He's already conceding the custody case. Claire looked at the folder. If we withdraw the financial materials, Claire said, Sandra Lim's case is weakened but not ended. She'd lose the corroborating documentation, but she has other avenues. But he doesn't know that, Anna said. Claire looked at her. No, she said. He doesn't. The 10 minutes ended. Anderson and Derek returned to the table. Derek's posture had changed. The folded hands' composure was gone. He was sitting forward slightly, the posture of a man who had moved from management to damage control. His eyes went to Anna. She looked back at him. She held his gaze for the first time all morning. He looked away first. That had never happened before. Not in the marriage. Not in the divorce proceedings. Not in the previous 3 months of this custody battle. He had always been the one who looked away last. The session reconvened. Anderson stood. Your Honor, he said. My client wishes to revise his custody petition. The judge looked at him. Mr. Mercer is prepared to withdraw the petition for full custody, Anderson said. He is proposing joint custody with primary residential custody awarded to Ms. Reeves. The gallery shifted. Claire's hand was on Anna's arm. It's not enough, Anna said quietly. The settlement. The money. Claire nodded. She stood. Your Honor, Claire said. The defense accepts the revised custody proposal. We also request, given the financial documentation now in evidence, that the court order an independent audit of the financial settlement reached at the time of divorce, specifically regarding asset disclosure. Anderson stood. Objection. The documentation is in evidence, Judge Reeves said. The objection is overruled. She looked at Derek. Mr. Mercer, I would strongly encourage your counsel to ensure complete transparency in the audit process. The court does not look favorably on selective disclosure. Derek sat. He was very still. The kind of still that was the last resort of a man who had run out of moves. Anna exhaled. It was a breath she felt in her entire body, ribs, shoulders, the back of her neck. Not over. But different. Completely different from where it had been at 9:14. She turned. Marco sat in the gallery. He did not smile. He did not nod. He just looked at her with the steady expression of someone who had done what he came to do and was waiting to make sure it held. It held. And in the afternoon, when Greg Whitfield sat in the witness chair and Joelle Park after him, with her leather portfolio and 14 months of handwritten notes, the full shape of who Derek Mercer actually was became visible to the room. Anna sat at the defendant's table and let it be visible. She had been told for years that her perception was unreliable. The room could see it now. Greg Whitfield took the stand at 1:15. He was 47 years old with the specific weariness of a man who had been carrying something heavy for a long time and was finally being allowed to set it down. He told the court what he had found 2 years ago. Not in the language of legal proceedings. His attorney had coached him, but Greg was fundamentally a man who spoke in plain terms, and the plain terms were damning enough. Derek had been routing money through a layered structure of small investment vehicles. Nothing large enough to trigger reporting requirements, but systematic enough over 3 years to represent a significant sum. When Greg had confronted him, Derek had responded not with denial but with the specific threat of a man who knew which lever to pull. He told me, Greg said, that he had documentation of a transaction I had been involved in 4 years earlier. Something I wasn't proud of. He said if I went to anyone with what I'd found, he'd make sure that documentation surfaced. The courtroom was quiet. He threatened you with blackmail, Claire said. He preferred to call it mutual discretion, Greg said. But yes. Derek's hand on the table was flat. His jaw was controlled. He was watching Greg with the expression of a man counting the cost. Anderson objected twice. Both objections were overruled. Joelle Park took the stand at 2:40. She was unhurried. She opened her leather portfolio. She had bookmarked specific pages with colored tabs: blue for financial instructions, green for communication directives, red for what she had labeled in her own notation system as ethically problematic. There were a lot of red tabs. She read specific entries in a clear, steady voice. Dates. Instructions. Exact language Derek had used. The specific occasion on which he had told her to send Anna's attorney a document that contained a strategically omitted asset column. The occasion on which he had said about Anna, "She'll accept it. She's too tired to fight." Anna heard that sentence and felt it land in the exact place it was meant for. He had known she was too tired. He had calculated her exhaustion and used it as a tool. She looked at the table. She thought about signing the settlement. About the specific weight of too tired that had moved her pen. She pressed her hands flat on the table. She did not cry. She held it. After Joelle, Sandra Lim gave a 15-minute summary of the financial analysis. Precise, documented, cross-referenced to 3 years of transaction records. She estimated the amount of undisclosed assets conservatively. The number was larger than what Marco had told Anna in the hallway. Anna looked at the ceiling for a moment. She breathed. Judge Reeves listened to all of it with the focused, unreadable attention of someone who had been on the bench for 22 years and who had, somewhere in that time, developed a comprehensive intolerance for a specific type of man. The afternoon session ended at 4:30. The judge addressed the room. "This court accepts the revised custody arrangement," she said. "Primary residential custody is awarded to Ms. Reeves, with supervised visitation for Mr. Mercer pending review." She paused. "Regarding the financial matters, this court is referring the relevant materials to the appropriate federal authorities for investigation. Additionally, the divorce settlement is ordered reopened for independent audit. Ms. Reeves's attorney will be notified of the timeline." She looked at Derek. "Mr. Mercer," she said, "I would recommend you consult extensively with your counsel before making any decisions about cooperation." Derek's expression gave nothing. His hand was still flat on the table. He had controlled everything else in this room for 3 months. He had controlled nothing for the past 6 hours. The session was adjourned. The courtroom began to empty. Anna sat still for a moment. Claire was gathering documents beside her, speaking in a quick professional voice about next steps and timelines and audit processes and supervised visitation schedules. All the practical architecture of what came next. Anna heard it. She would deal with it. But first she sat still for 30 seconds and let herself feel what had just happened. Lily was coming home with her tonight. Lily was coming home. Not as a concession. Not as a bargain. As the outcome of a day in which 3 people who had been waiting for the right moment had walked through a courtroom door and told the truth. She stood up. She turned around. Marco was still in the gallery. He was the last person remaining besides his 2 associates. She walked through the gate in the low railing that divided the defendant's area from the gallery. She stopped in front of him. "Thank you," she said. He looked at her. "Mrs. Caruso would like you and Lily to come for dinner on Friday," he said. Anna looked at him. Something in her face moved. Not just gratitude. Something larger. The specific recognition of a person who had been without a net for so long that the existence of one felt almost impossible to believe. "She said to tell you she made the biscotti," Marco said. Anna's chin trembled. "Just once." He pressed it back. "Tell her yes," she said. "Tell her we'll be there." He nodded. He stood. He walked toward the courtroom exit. At the door he stopped. He turned back. "For what it's worth," he said, "he was wrong about you." She looked at him. "He said you were too tired to fight," Marco said. "He was wrong." He left. Anna stood in the empty courtroom. She looked at the judge's bench. At the defendant's table. At the gallery with its wooden benches. She pulled out her phone. She called Mrs. Caruso. The line picked up on the second ring. "Well," Mrs. Caruso said. No preamble. No softening. "We're coming home," Anna said. Mrs. Caruso made a sound that might have been a sob and immediately reclassified itself as a cough. "Good," she said. "Lily has been asking about you every 20 minutes. Tell her the biscotti are for Friday, not today." Anna laughed. Surprised. "The best kind." "I'll tell her," she said. She walked out of the courthouse. The afternoon air hit her face, cold and clean, November doing its honest work. She put her face up. She breathed. Lily ran the length of Mrs. Caruso's hallway when Anna opened the door. She hit Anna's midsection with the full commitment of a 6-year-old who had been waiting all day and was not interested in pacing herself. Anna caught her. She held her against her chest with both arms and pressed her face into the top of Lily's dark hair, that specific warm shampoo smell of a child who has been looked after, who has been safe, who is exactly where she belongs. "Mama," Lily said, muffled against Anna's coat. "Hey, Bug," Anna said. Her voice came out fine. Perfectly fine. She held on for an extra 10 seconds. Lily let her. Then, "Mrs. Caruso said I could have a biscotti but only one because Friday." "That's correct," Anna said. "What's Friday?" "We're having dinner with her and a neighbor." Lily pulled back to look at her. "The man from across the street?" she said. Anna blinked. "You know him?" "He waves sometimes," Lily said, with the complete certainty of a child for whom waving was sufficient basis for an opinion. "He seems nice. He has a good wave." Anna looked at Mrs. Caruso over Lily's head. Mrs. Caruso's expression was the expression of a woman who had been managing more information than she'd shared. "He does have a good wave," Mrs. Caruso confirmed with great dignity. Anna shook her head. She went home with Lily. Their apartment smelled of the morning. Lily's cereal, Anna's cold coffee, the specific domestic smell of a place lived in by two people who were doing fine on their own and would now perhaps have a little more space to be fine in. Lily did the evening routine. Bath, the specific arrangement of stuffed animals, the diagonal sandwich rule applied retroactively to a discussion of tomorrow's lunch. Anna sat on the edge of Lily's bed. "Mama," Lily said, "is everything okay now?" Anna looked at her. "Yeah," she said. "It really is." Lily looked at her with those dark eyes. "Is Daddy going to try to take me away again?" Anna reached out and brushed the hair off Lily's forehead. "He's going to see you sometimes," she said. "With supervision. You'll know every detail before it happens. And you always come home to me." Lily considered this. "Does supervision mean someone watches?" "Yes." "Like a babysitter?" "Kind of." Lily nodded slowly. "Okay." She looked at the ceiling. "I drew a sun for Mrs. Caruso. I put a face on it." "I know," Anna said. "She has it on her refrigerator." "Suns should have faces," Lily said. "Otherwise they're just circles." Anna looked at her daughter. This small, complete, opinionated person who required diagonal sandwiches and suns with faces and everyone safe at the end of the story. "You're right," Anna said. "They should." He tucked the blanket. She turned off the overhead light and left the nightlight on, the small crescent moon one on the bookshelf that cast a warm pale glow across the room. She stood in the doorway. "Mom," Lily said. "Yeah. You came back." Anna held the doorframe. "I always come back," she said. He pulled the door to. She stood in the hallway for a moment. Friday dinner at Mrs. Caruso's was easier than she'd expected. Marco arrived with wine and the specific, slightly uncomfortable manner of a man who operated better in professional contexts and was navigating the particular warmth of Mrs. Caruso's kitchen with the same cautious attention he brought to everything. Mrs. Caruso fed them without ceremony and with complete authority over the seating arrangement. Lily sat next to Marco. She had decided this herself. She spent the first 15 minutes appraising him with the direct, unself-conscious assessment of a 6-year-old who had not yet learned to pretend she wasn't looking. "You do have a good wave," she said finally. Marco looked at her. "Thank you," he said. "What kind of job do you have?" she said. "I manage things," he said. "Like a manager?" she said. "Somewhat like that," he said. "My mama managed things at her old job," Lily said. "She was good at it." Marco looked at Anna. Anna looked at her pasta. "I heard," he said. "She's looking for a new job," Lily said. "You should give her one. She's very organized." "Lily," Anna said. "She is," Lily said with the unassailable confidence of someone reporting a fact. "She color codes everything." Marco looked at Lily. Then he looked at Anna. "Is that true?" he said. Anna pressed her lips together. "I have a system," she said. "She has 17 binders," Lily said. Marco said nothing. But his expression, the controlled, careful surface of it, did the thing that Anna was starting to recognize. The brief, almost invisible warmth that appeared and retreated before you could be certain you'd seen it. 17, he said. 17, Lily confirmed. Mrs. Caruso refilled the pasta bowl. The kitchen was warm. The audit concluded in March. It took 4 months and 2 forensic accountants and a process that Anna did not have to manage directly because Claire had connected her to a family law specialist who had taken the case on the strength of the documentation and the outcome of the hearing. The number that came back from the audit was larger than Sandra Lim's conservative estimate. Anna sat in the specialist's office on a Tuesday morning and looked at the figure. She looked at it for a long time. She thought about the day she had signed the original settlement. Too tired to fight. That was what Derek had calculated. He had not been wrong about the tiredness. He had been wrong about what the tiredness meant. Tired was not the same as finished. Tired was not the same as out of options. Tired was what happened when you had been fighting alone for a long time. The operative word being alone. She had not been alone on the day that mattered. An elderly woman with biscotti and a phone had made one call on a Tuesday night, and the architecture of a carefully constructed injustice had found a crack it could not recover from. Lily started first grade in September. She chose the backpack herself, dark green with a small sun patch that she had asked Anna to sew on, the sun having naturally a face. On the first day she stood at the school entrance and looked back at Anna. "You're coming to get me?" she said. 3 o'clock, Anna said. "I will be standing exactly here." Lily looked at the school. She looked back at Anna. "Okay," she said. 3 o'clock. She walked in. Anna stood on the sidewalk until the door closed. Then she stood there another minute. Then she turned and walked to work. The position was at a logistics and operations firm, a role that had been created technically following a conversation at Mrs. Caruso's kitchen table in which Anna had mentioned her background and Lily had mentioned the 17 binders. And Marco had said the following week that he knew someone who needed a director of operations and had given Anna a name. Just a name. No pressure. No arrangement. Just a name and the information that they'd been looking for 6 months. She had applied. She had interviewed. She had gotten the job because she was qualified and prepared and because color-coded organizational systems were, it turned out, exactly what the firm needed. She had needed the name to get through the door. She had done everything else herself. That was the distinction she held carefully. She thought about it sometimes, about the specific difference between someone clearing a path and someone carrying you down it. Marco had cleared a path. He had walked into a courtroom with 3 witnesses and a folder. He had made calls that opened doors she had no way of opening. But she had walked through those doors herself. She had looked at Derek across the courtroom table and held his gaze until he looked away. She had signed the original settlement because she was too tired to fight alone. She had not been alone in the courtroom. She would not be alone again. Not because Marco had promised anything. Not because a single act of intervention had solved everything. But because the experience of having someone show up, unexpectedly without obligation because an elderly woman made a phone call, had done something irreversible to her understanding of the world. People showed up. Sometimes from the building across the street. Sometimes from the neighbor who had been watching quietly for 3 years. Sometimes from a business partner who had been waiting 14 months for the right moment to tell the truth. People showed up. You just had to still be standing when they arrived. This is what this story is really about. Not the courtroom. Not the folder. Not Derek's careful calculations unraveling under cross-examination. It is about a woman who walked into the most important room of her life believing she was completely alone. And about the moment she discovered she wasn't. It is about a 6-year-old who draws sons with faces because she understands at 6 years old that warmth should be visible. And it is about the quiet, unglamorous courage of staying on your feet when everything is designed to make you fall. Before you go, we have a question that comes straight from this story. Has there ever been a moment in your life when you thought you were completely alone in something, and then someone showed up? A neighbor, a stranger, someone you never expected? Or have you ever been the person who showed up for someone when they needed it most? Tell us in the comments. We have a wonderful community here from all across the world. From California to New York, from Texas to Georgia, from the UK to Australia to everywhere in between. Tell us where you're listening from and share your story. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Someone who is still in their courtroom. Still waiting. We'll see you in the next story. Stay kind.